you very much, Mr. Chairman. My brothers and sisters, I once again welcome you to the hallowed halls of Rienzi Complex, perhaps the greatest symbol of working class struggle this country has ever seen. Rienzi Complex, which has been a vanguard of struggle for bread, peace and justice. Rienzi Complex, which has been a sanctuary for thousands of you who would have labored in the cane fields for generations. And today, Rienzi Complex, a place of refuge and safety for you once more. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you to the home of your Trinidad General Workers' Trade Union and the National Solidarity Assembly. Welcome back home. And today my message for you is a very simple message. It is a message that you may or may not agree with me, but that is your prerogative. But I have to tell you what I have to say anyway. You see, my brothers and sisters, we are the victims of deceit, of deception, and of betrayal unparalleled in the history of this country. It is a message I intend to bring to you because after 3 long, hard, and daunting years of struggle, after 3 long, hard years of begging and pleading and marching and demonstrating and sitting in interministerial meetings and meeting with the Prime Minister and Udall and Nirvan Singh and Ramona and Ganga Singh and Botiwari and Nirvan Marahaj. After 3 long, hard years of being lied to, I believe that I have earned the right to say what I have to say and do what I have to do and damn the consequences. And so my message to you is very simple. We were betrayed by the PNM. And today we have lived to see that we have been betrayed by the UNC also. And every single time I spoke to you, I told you, and you know what I have been saying is true, that I have been called every single thing under the sun by the former government. They call me PNM, they call me anti-UNC, they call me political, and they even called me a traitor. And yet all I did over the last 3 years was to call upon the UNC government to take care of their own supporters and the people who would have supported them unflinchingly for generations. That is all I did. I told them to take care of the people who would have pounded the pavement for you, who would have given their sweat and their blood and their tears for you. And when I told them that, they looked at me as though I was talking Greek to them. And for that, I was condemned for telling them to take care of you. But you see, I did not mind being condemned or criticized. Because anytime you do what you have to do, and anytime you take a stand for what is right, what is fair, and what is just, there are those who will always seek to destroy you, to seek their own ends. But I continued because I knew that what I was doing was right. I knew that I was fighting for a just cause because I was calling on the UNC government to give to their people, not a gift or a handout, but something that you were legally entitled to by law, by the Singh judgment of 2007. And so I did not mind being vilified or attacked. I have grown accustomed to it. Because you know they always say, you won't pelt stones on a tree that is not bearing fruit. But I do not have a malicious or vindictive bone in my body. So even today, I beg God to forgive them for the sins that they have committed against you. And throughout that whole struggle over the last 3 years, there are 2 images that stay in my mind. 2 images I will never forget, and 2 images that will haunt me. It will haunt me to the rest of my days. And that is an image of a 75-year-old man with a walking stick by the name of Nirvan Marahaj, and a 76-year-old man by the name of Nirvan Marahaj, who marched with me in Port of Spain in the rain and the sun, who marched with me side by side through the streets of Cuba, demanding from Kamala Prasad Bissessa, demanding from Nirvan Marahaj, demanding and begging and pleading with Udrinath and Nirvan Singh and Ramona Ramdial to give them what was due to them. You know what? Rohan died about 6 months ago without having received what was due to him. And Nirvan Marahaj died about 2 months ago without having received what was due to him. These two gentlemen who labored in the cane fields for generations died without having received what was due to them from a government that they placed into power, and you must never forget that. You see, when you are exploited and you are oppressed and you are discriminated against by your enemy, it hurts you. But you expect that because the job and the duty of your enemy is to destroy you. But when you are betrayed by your own, when you are treated like dirt and discriminated against by those whom you have trusted and placed into power to take care of you, then that is the unkindest cut of all. And that is the worst ingratitude you could ever experience. Because the worst sin in this life is the ingratitude of those whom you trusted and those who belong to you. It is the ingratitude of your own. But in spite of the sadness and the condemnation and the attempts to destroy you, it is a comfort to be here today. For when I think back of the battles and the struggles over the last 3 years, I am happy because here we are gathered again as a band of brothers and sisters, and we are comparing battle scars from over the last 3 years. And as we stand together, and as the battle became depressing and daunting, today seeing you here today, and seeing the crowd that has gathered here today, I feel renewed. Here today my spirit is fortified, and I'm reminded, ladies and gentlemen, of why I became the President General of the Trinidad Union and what is my life's true purpose. And that is, whatever the consequences, personal to myself or otherwise, it is my duty to serve you, to serve the downtrodden and the oppressed in this society. And because of that, I have taken a vow that I will never allow the blood of Rohan and Nirvan Marahaj to have been shed in vain. We will fight them to the end to ensure these people are never forgotten. You see, we have condemned the PNM for many years and criticized them for many years, and justifiably so. Because the PNM shut down the sugar industry. They put 12,000 people on the breadline. They appealed the Yeltsin judgment. For years, you lived under an umbrella of believing that you were second-class citizens. No one knows how psychologically damaging it is to wake up every single morning and believe that you are a second-class citizen. For years, you were told that you did not belong to mainstream Trinidad and Tobago. And we know, because we faced it every single day. In fact, what the PNM has done to us with the closure of the sugar industry, I said before, and I will say again, is unforgivable. They brutalized workers in 1975. They created the Industrial Stabilization Act. And I will say it again, the PNM is probably the most anti-labor organization this country has ever seen. And I make no apologies for saying so. But you see as things change, it seems that it remains the same. Because every single one of us must wonder today, what happened to the joy and the hope we felt 5 years ago, when with a 29-seat majority, a party we supported was swept into power, and we thought that at long last, the abuse and the disdain and the contempt of sugar workers and cane farmers had come to an end. We thought at long last, freedom was at hand. But my brothers and sisters, we were mistaken, because we have been betrayed by individuals who have used the United National Congress as a medium through which they could further their own personal agendas and seek their own ends. I don't want you to forget that. Brothers and sisters, when I told the former government, and when I said the former government, I mean the UNC, the party that every single one of you perhaps sitting here today voted for. The party you, I'm sure 99% of you would have voted for in the 2015 elections. And you were there sitting and waving flags and shouting their name and clapping and cheering. And yet today you are sitting here begging and pleading for what is due to you. And they were in power for 5 years. You voted for them and you are still waiting. Do not forget that. You see, when I told them, do not forget the people who would have supported you since the 50s. Do not forget the ex-colony workers and the cane farmers. When I told them, you are in power, help the people who placed you in power. They behaved as though I was attacking them personally. And they threatened to destroy me. In fact, you know, because I've told you before, 2 senior government ministers said they will find a way to destroy me, and they will ensure that when they are finished with me, I will never raise my voice again. Well, you know what? I am standing here raising my voice, and they are out of power. Don't forget that. And when I told them, I said, listen, you spend $340 million in Columbia Orange, and every year you give $200 and $300 million for Carnival. In fact, I told you before, soca artists get $10 million to produce a CD. Chutney and soca, $2 million here and $2 million there. Millions in legal fees and public relation gimmicks. And when I say, where is the money to take care of the ex-colony workers? They turned a blind eye and a deaf ear and pretended they could not see. And when I said, how is it that private companies and private individuals are accessing colony lands, they pretended they could not hear. And when I said, how is it that 12 years after the shutdown of the sugar industry, thousands of ex-colony workers and cane farmers are still waiting, they pretended they could not hear. And I will tell you what a former senior government official said to me in my office. He said, what damn people will do with land. And when he said damn people, he was talking about every single one of you sitting here today. And you know what? In 2015, most of you still went and voted for them in the 2015 elections. And I always told them, I said, if you win 15 seats in the 2015 elections, you would win it in the sugar belt, and so said, so done. And you are still sitting here waiting for what is due to you. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the level of what they think of you, and you must never, ever forget them for that. And you see, by not giving you your lands, they wanted to destroy your independence and do to you what the PNM did to its own supporters in many areas of this country. To turn you into a dependency syndrome, seat up on your LP, so that when they say, come back home, you have no choice but to run back home, and when they say jump, you will say how high. Brothers and sisters, you must never allow them to do that to you again. You see, 5 years after the UNC formed government, there are still 5,800 ex-colony workers waiting for their residential lots. And 5 years after the UNC gained power, there are still 4,800 of you waiting for your agricultural plots. Do you know that under your UNC government, 1,200 of you were dislocated and still to be allocated the plots that were taken away from you? Do you know that there are 1,200 of you who have to be initially allocated, and your UNC government, that every single one of you voted for, told me that there are no more lands to give out to the ex-colony workers? Do you know that sites that were prepared for you were taken away by your UNC government and given to the land for the landless program? Do you know that your UNC government with this visa package have perhaps conducted themselves in such a way that they must never ever be forgiven for what they have done to you? Do you know that cane farmers were allocated $900 million by the EU? That $83 million were initially paid? And the last government, in the last few months before election, allotted $130 million to be paid in 3 tranches. And they lost the elections. And I am asking every single cane farmer today, and those of you who would have voted for the UNC, what has happened to the $687 million remaining from the monies allotted to you by the European Union? Ask your government that. Ask the UNC government that you voted for, where that money gone? And let me tell you something again. The reserve pension fund, do you know that every single one of you sitting here today, you are entitled to $20,000 to $30,000 next year in May 2016 with the reserve pension fund which will mature at that time. And for years, I begged Kamala, and I begged Rural, and I begged Nelson, and I begged Ramona, and I begged Ganga Singh, and I begged Botirawi. I said, give the ex-Kawani workers documentation so that when 2016 comes, they could go to the Ministry of Finance, present their document, and they will receive the monies that are owed to them. Ladies and gentlemen, elections have come and gone. They have lost the elections, and you are still waiting for that documentation. I don't know what will happen. And 2 weeks before the 2015 general elections, I had a meeting with a senior cabinet official. And when I said, give them the documentation, elections coming, he said to me, we spent out the money. Your UNC government spent out the money of its own UNC supporters and placed its UNC supporters in limbo, and you must never forget that. Because I now have to go and beg the PNM to put that money in that fund when you should have already received that from your own government that every single one of you sitting here would have voted for. And when I said, no, Devant, Ramona, Rudal, please write off all sugar welfare loans. Because the criteria to get a sugar welfare loan was that you had to be working in the industry to be able to pay it back. And when the industry was shut down, it meant that all sugar welfare loans should have been written off, and any monies you paid from 2003 to present should have been immediately reimbursed to you. Because people fail to understand, as Stephen said, more than 65% of the ex-colony workers went home with less than $50,000 in their pockets. And in addition to that, they were denied the right to use the lands that they were supposed to use to earn a living. Ladies and gentlemen, you are still waiting for the write-off of those sugar welfare loans from a government that you voted for. Do not forget that. And when they condemned me and they criticized me and they called me a liar, Nirvan Marahaj and Vasant Bharat and Jairam Simangal went on the TV and the radio and the newspapers and they said, Nirvan Marahaj is a liar. All ex-colony workers get what is due to them. You know what? When they condemned and they criticized me and they called me a liar, they were calling more than 12,000 people who voted for them liars. Because you are sitting here today still demanding what is due to you from a UNC government that you voted for. But they forget one thing, ladies and gentlemen. Times are changing and people are changing. And I will never forget in that same meeting, I told the senior government official, I said there are still 166 ex-colony workers waiting to get back the monies they illegally paid. They paid under duress from the sugar welfare. 1 week before the election, I said, pay back the people their money, because if you lose the elections, you don't know what will happen. You know what he told me? He said, the permanent secretary said, we have no more money to pay to those ex-colony workers. But when a supermarket burned down in Arima, the Prime Minister found $1 million to immediately disburse to the workers of that supermarket. But you as ex-colonies and workers and cane farmers were denied your legitimate due and what was entitled to you by law. You must never, ever forget that. Ladies and gentlemen, the UTC sweetener loan money, $51.8 million. And Rakib Mohammed will tell you when we met, we were promised 1 week before the elections that that money would be paid to the ex-colony workers who invested in the loan. In that scheme, you know what? Elections have come and gone. And that $51.8 million is still waiting. It is still waiting to be paid to you. And when I begged them and I pleaded with them, give the ex-colony workers these monies, they turned a blind eye. And I am saying to the PNM government today, the UNC have betrayed us in the worst possible way. I'm asking the present Prime Minister to live up to your campaign promises and ensure that every single ex-colony worker get what is due to them. And I will even go so far as to say, if this is not done, then we will have to call upon the thousands of our members to immediately boycott those two financial institutions that were responsible for that lie that they perpetuated upon you with regard to the sweetener loan money and the scheme that you invested in. And I will never forget, as I talk, I keep remembering one thing. You know, when you're talking and you think back and in retrospect, I remember one thing. In the lead up to the 2015 elections, I told you that I was going to contest those elections under the banner of the National Solidarity Assembly, because I was going to prove a point that if 800 people in Cuba North or Cuba South voted for me, I will know that my people were telling me to continue the struggle on their behalf. Over 2,500 ex-colony workers I spoke to told me, they said, Prezi, this is a battle between the PNM and the UNC, and most of us are still UNC. You have fought for 3 years on the outside. Why don't you submit your nomination papers for the UNC so that you could fight from inside? And I reluctantly did it. In fact, my papers went in a few hours before nomination closed. But as any good leader, I listened to the voices of my people. And as history would have it, I was not selected. And you know what? Destiny saw it fit to ensure that I was not selected. Because I could stand before you here today without asking any favor or asking any quarter and demand justice for the ex-colony workers without having to put my tail between my legs like in Nausing and Rudal and Ramona and them and shut up and stay quiet. I could stand here before you and demand what is due to you. And so I thank God I was not selected. My brothers and sisters, the final insult and the final indignity heaped upon you, poured upon you, the final scorn perpetuated upon you by the UNC was on election night when thousands of you were gathered at Rienzi complex, waiting for your leaders to appear. Kamala Prasad Bisesa and the hierarchy of the UNC did not even have the decency or the goodwill to come to Rienzi complex and give you hope and comfort and tell you all will be well. They abandoned you on election night, and you must never ever forget that. It showed you that they were only content in not forming government, but remaining and holding on to a seat so that they could stay in parliament, collect a salary, and drive around in the black Prados with tinted clasp. Ladies and gentlemen, it was the final slap in the face not only for me, but for you. Because when you waited, they never showed, and they had the audacity to go to their houses to sleep while thousands of you were left here wondering aimlessly, wondering what to do. So ladies and gentlemen, these are the people whom you would have supported for generations. These are the people who you would have, as I said before, you would have been waving flags and being told that if you did not go to those meetings, if you work in CETA or URLP, you would lose your jobs. And you still voted for them. They threatened you with your jobs and you still voted for them. They denied you your lands for 5 years and you still voted for them. They denied you your reserve pension fund and you still voted for them. They denied you everything that was due to you and you still voted for them. And so my brothers and sisters, yes, you may have been betrayed by the PNM, but worse than that, you were betrayed by the UNC, and you now have to ask yourself a question. Are you better off today than you were 5 years ago? And if the answer is no, then you have choices to make. And I will tell you this. They accuse me of being anti-UNC, but I want to tell them something before I continue. At the age of 16 years, While they were campaigning in Chaguanas and Couva North and Couva South, I was campaigning in Maloney and La Hopita and the Sherwood Park and the Congo. I was campaigning on the East-West Corridor. And we were the pioneers who took the Rienzi from the plains of Central into the hills of Laventille and eventually into the corridors of power. So they can't tell me about UNC. I could tell them about UNC. And so I could stand up and tell them the UNC have betrayed their own people. You must not forget that. And let me tell you something. 5 years they stood in Parliament. 5 years with a 29-seat majority, and not one of them had the guts, or the courage, or the gumption, or the determination to stand up and say, ex-colony workers and cane farmers have been unfairly done by. Not one of them had the courage to stand up and say, out of every segment of this population, ex-colony workers and cane farmers are the people who have been most unjustly treated in this country. But after elections, 2 days after, Nelson want to come and talk about colony workers, and Ramona want to come and talk about TLC judgment. You must never let them insult you like that. Now they have lost the elections, you must ask them. When you say come back home to what? You were in government, and you couldn't do what you had to do for us. You expect that you could do it in opposition? So come back home to what? Ladies and gentlemen, if you believe in your hearts that in the Rusin and Ramona and Rodney Charles and Barry Paradat and Ganga Singh and Potiwari, if you believe that these people could fight for you, if you believe that these people could be bruised and battered and go down to the drain and be moneyed for you, and get up and fight again, support them. Keep supporting them. But if you have one iota of doubt in your minds that the house that you live in has become unwelcoming, then the time has come for you to build a new house. Because when that child you gave birth to in around West Savannah, the child you stood in the rain and the mud, and you gave birth to, when you expected that child to love you, and to take care of you, and to seek your interests, you have lived to see the day when that child has been brainwashed and hijacked, and when that child has turned its back upon you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come to create a new vehicle to seek your own interests. And if you really believe that those who now control the UNC understand where you come from, then you must think twice. Because women sitting here today were going to the cane fields at 2 and 3 in the morning. They don't know how you move from carrot roof houses to concrete houses. I always tell you that. They don't know how you move from latrine to toilet, or from bull cart to motor car. They don't know how you took credit for 6 months of the year and had to pay the other 6 months. They don't know the sacrifices you made to turn your children into doctors and lawyers and engineers and teachers. They don't even know or understand that when other people were fighting for higher wages, you were fighting for more work. And they could never understand how you were the lowest paid people in this country, but yet you are the only people in this country to have given 1 day free labor to this country. They could never understand it. And they won't understand it because they have been blinded by the trappings of power. And I was asked by one of my executives before I come up here, please say what you always say. So I will say it. There are those who, having ascended ambition's ladder, turn their faces to the clouds, and without looking down, scorn the base depths from whence they came. You must never forget that. Never. But as I always say, time longer than twine, and what goes up must come down. And the day will come when these UNC people will have to run to their houses and fall on their knees and beg the gods to stop the plague that must fall on their heads. for the sins that they have committed against you. I tell you that